Hey guys, it's Greg from Bay Bridge BBQ, and I'm here today in Las Vegas, Nevada at Soul Belly BBQ, and I'm here with Chef Bruce Kalman. How you doing, Bruce?
What's up, man?
I appreciate you letting me come record this video
Bringing
today.
Jersey to Vegas.
Yeah, that's right. So Bruce is actually from New Jersey. I don't know if he tells many people that, but
I tell everybody that, especially the Texans that love our barbecue.
Oh, perfect. So Bruce was on 3 different TV shows?
More than that, yeah.
More than that?
A handful, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've done a bunch. It's fun stuff.
Any specific ones you want to mention?
The Chopped, Top Chef, Beat Bobby Flay,
Awesome.
a few others. Yeah.
So he's going to show us today. I just put up a brisket video on trimming. Now we're going to see how the professionals do it.
We'll see about that. So this is a Packer brisket. We work with Creekstone Farms. This is their natural upper 2/3 choice program. So it's like, some of them actually look like prime when they come in, just the marbling and everything on them. But a typical Packer brisket, to have this discoloration just from the juice in the bag, some oxidized meat. You know, the thing about especially trimming briskets is everybody has their own way. Yeah. You know, so there's no right or wrong way except what works for you. You know, there's some basic things you want to look at though, like thin meat, you want to remove it because it's just going to curl up, it's going to be dry. So when you're trimming brisket and cooking a brisket, you lose on average 50% of every brisket.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
That said, I mean, we use everything. So like this, we're going to make beef jerky out of this, teriyaki beef jerky. We'll grind meat for our burgers. We do, we make barbacoa, we make all kinds of stuff. We made sloppy Joe. You know, you have to have, when you're trimming a lot of meat, you have to have use for all of your trim, basically. With the fat, the top fat, which I'll show you when we trim it off, we grind it up and make tallow. So we render it on our smoker because we mop our briskets with tallow. We cook our burger in tallow, you know.
Yeah, I use mine for the burgers. I grind it up and
it's great.
Out of them.
Exactly. So that's always my first cut. And then right here, gonna round it off because you also don't want corners. Corners will burn. So these bigger pieces we'll use for our beef jerky. And then, again, everybody has their own thing when they're trimming briskets. Mine is to try to not take off more than I really need to. But you do want to remove a little bit of this silver skin under here. If this was competition barbecue, you have to remove all of it.
Okay.
Like the briskets need to be pristine because you get judged on that. Thankfully, we're not doing competition barbecue because it's not my thing.
No, I've never done one either.
Yeah. So I just get rid of, this is considered sort of useless fat down here because it's just going to render and into the smoker and go in the trash. So if we save it, you know, for us, every little bit counts. So if we save that fat, we'll use this for tallow. We'll render that, we'll grind that, render it for tallow. This is the only spot on a brisket that's considered hard fat, which you can use for grinding. So like grinding to add to your burgers or if you're making a beef sausage.
Okay.
The soft fat does nothing for it. It just basically renders out. But this adds, you know, adds fat. So we save this, we'll grind this for our burgers, usually, because there's only one spot on every brisket. And our burgers are 70-30. So all brisket.
Everybody usually says 80-20.
Yeah.
70-30, I like it.
Yeah, we make patties and we smoke them for about 30 minutes. And then we chill them and then we'll cook them on our flat top griddle. So this oxidized meat, I don't like that taste, that smell. You know, it's like an old hamburger. Some people don't care, I do. It's just, again, it's how what's important to you and how you view it and also what works, you know. This has all been through trial and error for me. Okay, so pretty much the back, that's about all I'm gonna do on the back. Now you've got, you know, brisket's comprised of 2 different muscles. You've got your flat that runs the entire length of the brisket, and then right here is the deckle meat, which is the fatty, which is the good stuff. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Yeah, the point, exactly. So the way I do this is I'll start taking some of this is called the mohawk, and I'll just start pulling this off because this, same thing, we'll make jerky or we'll grind it for something. And then you can see right here, it kind of ends in this giant chunk of fat right here. So I start here. and slowly taking off fat, because we want to leave, you know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more. I leave a little bit more on the flat because I want the flat to be juicy.
Yeah.
You know, you trim too much off, it's dry meat.
Because the flat's the leaner side, right?
Exactly. So, and then we're going to start pulling some of this fat out. We don't want to like dig into it too much, so I'll show you kind of, it's a gradual situation, but you do have to take this out because it won't, this much fat won't cook out properly. And you really want, like, it should just be like gorgeous, like right in the middle. You shouldn't actually see a chunk of fat. So as I come down here, I'm going to keep taking this down little by little as needed. Again, because I don't want to take off more than I need to take off. And then I'm going to clean this up. I'm a little bit OCD because I'm a chef. So
How do you cook meat side up or down?
I cook it just like this. Yep.
Fat side up?
Fat side up always.
Yeah, that's how I cook it.
Because otherwise all the fat just renders out. It doesn't, you want the fat to cook down and penetrate through the meat and basically baste it, you know?
Gotcha.
So we're going to keep shaping the brisket as we go too, because we want it to be, I don't get into the whole like, it has to be super aerodynamic thing, but kind of, you know, and like I said, you'll see how these end up, but you can see right here, you know, look at that fat. Look at that marbling right there. It's beautiful. And that's, I always look at that, I'm like, that's gonna be a good brisket. You know? I mean, the thing about barbecue too is that it's mostly about fire management. Like 90% of it's fire management, proper fire management. If you don't manage your fire and your temps are up and down all day, instead of being consistent, you know, right around 250 all day, you're gonna end up with an inconsistent, you'll end up with an inconsistent product. You know, we were doing 225 for a while, and we found out that a little bit hotter, we're getting better bark, and then also it's rendering out that center fat a lot nicer too.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. You know, it's like everything else. It's trial and error. You just got to try things and see what works.
How long have you been smoking barbecue?
A few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been a chef for a long time, cooked Italian food mostly, you know, and
makes sense because you're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, you definitely want to have a nice sharp knife, and see, I'm not sawing at it. I want nice clean lines. One of the things you do want to do is you want to try to make it so the fat will run off this way, because otherwise you'll end up with a spot where the fat pools, and then you won't get bark there. One of the things that we do if that happens is we'll stuff a ball of aluminum foil under it and cook it like this.
Oh, okay.
So if it's problematic, yeah, you really don't want that. This is the side, this side of the point will be towards the fire, so we don't want to take a lot of fat off of this. We want to keep it protected. And that's where your true Texas burnt end is, right on the end there. And I'll show you when we cut into a brisket later. But yeah, making that transition from chef to barbecue has been amazing. The barbecue community is incredible. You know, everybody shares.
A few groups on social media and all that, and there's a lot of good reading and.
Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with a lot of the bigger barbecue people out there now, and everybody shares recipes. You know, they're like, what do you need? What do you need help with? Oh, you need. This is how I do this.
Yeah.
You know, try it. And just through doing events, I've done a bunch of events in Austin with my friends. And every time I'm around other barbecue guys, I watch what they're doing, and I learn something. Something always.
Yeah.
You know. So again, you know, we want to keep this protected, but you do have to take some of this fat off, because that's quite a bit.
And how long you usually approximately leave it on at 250?
I would say it depends on time of the year. You know, right now it's hotter than hell out here. So everything's a little quicker, more probably 12 hours.
Okay.
Winter time they could go 14, sometimes 16.
Wow.
It just depends, and every brisket's different, you know. Cows are like people too. So they're all different.
It's a nice looking brisket right there.
Yeah. And they're all, you know, they come in different. Some of them don't have a lot of fat on the top. You know, it's a packer brisket. There's, you know, you're dealing with human error and then also just the animal itself.
So being out in Vegas really helps it speed up the temperature, save some wood.
Yeah, you know,
115 degrees weather.
Yeah. Yeah, the pits will hold, like if I read the temp and there's nothing going on in it, no fire, they're holding about 140, 150 degrees right now. Because they're cast iron, you know?
Yeah.
So they maintain that heat, which is why they're such good smokers too. And, you know, but faster is not necessarily always better with barbecue. Like, you can't get impatient and then push something, like rush it and be like, I'm gonna crank the heat and get this thing done because I want it done. You just have to let it go, because if you do that, you're typically asking for trouble.
So you're not a fan of the hot and fast method?
No. Nope.
Yeah, I haven't personally tried it, but I've seen videos on some people doing it.
Yeah, I don't get it. You know, something like this, you just can't beat slow cooking a piece of meat. You can't.
Yeah.
You know, even like you can sear and cook roast pork loins. I've smoked pork loins slow, and the texture is just unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to try that next.
Yeah. I've done them where we encased it in our hot link mixture and then wrapped it in bacon and then throw it on the smoker. We did a peach wheat beer jalapeno glaze on it. It was pretty spectacular.
Can't beat anything wrapped in bacon, I don't think.
No, you really can't. So this is pretty close here. You know, again, I want nice smooth lines. I'm looking at it so the fat, you know, as long as it doesn't curl up, right? It's not too thin. The fat's just should run off like that.
All right.
That way. You know, I don't get too obsessed with the discolored fat on top. Some people do. But if you do, you want to carefully just take off a little bit, because I would prefer to just keep enough fat on there to make it a good brisket, you know? And then lastly, what I'll do is see how this meat's kind of coming out the side of the fat.
Yes.
We want all that meat to be protected, so we're just going to trim it to the fat line right here.
Okay.
You know, and anything you're smoking, ribs, whatever, you don't want corners. You don't want edges. Edges dry out, corners dry out and burn. So everything needs to be somewhat rounded when you're doing it. Probably take a little bit more of this fat off right here. Let's get that out. And then I'm going to shape this a bit more like this again, so the runoff happens the right way, right direction, does the right thing. And then, you know, that's pretty much it right here.
All right, perfect.
You know, you got nice. Oh, I didn't mention too, when you're taking this, I was just doing it, that you don't want to dig this out. You don't want to ever dig anything out in a brisket. You want everything to be nice and clean. So, see, it's just flush. You just want to make it flush to the meat like that.
All right, so now what?
So now we would season this with salt and pepper. You know, and that's another debate too. We tried seasoning it overnight. Let them sit overnight with salt and pepper on them. And for Vegas, it's too salty.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so you have to know your crowd. You have to know who you're cooking for too, right? In Texas, it's not. Here it is. So no need to fight that. I'm here to cook for people, not for my ego.
So just pepper and salt?
Yeah, we do equal parts salt and pepper. Let me show you our mix.
Funny, I had this conversation the other day with my buddy Omar, and he was like, no, just tell me your secret. I was like, no, so I do salt, pepper, garlic.
So we do equal parts right here. I get 16 mesh pepper. I'm sure you've heard about that. Yeah. From this, I work with a spice company in Austin. The guy supplies everybody. And it's the only place I could find like true, 16 mesh pepper, but we're equal parts.
Yeah,
like
perfect.
16 mesh pepper and kosher salt. That's it, super simple.
Awesome.
And then when we rub them, I'm not gonna rub this one, but completely encased. You don't want to use any of the rub that has been, rubbed. Like when you rub it on and you have the excess on the tray, or whatever you're seasoning on, because that's getting moisture.
Okay.
And then you have this like clumps of seasoning on top.
Gotcha.
Again, it's all been trial and error.
Yeah.
Learn as we go here.
So where are we heading next?
Let's go out to the pit.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're outside now, right in front of the smoker. He's gonna tell us about this.
Yeah, so these are from Millscale in Lockhart, Texas, and they are one of the best, if not the best, builders out there.
Okay.
They basically take these old propane tanks. This is a 1,000-gallon propane tank, and they process it to remove any of the gas and remnants and whatnot, and then they turn it into a smoker. And it's not just like cut holes and make doors and put on a flue and put on a firebox. There's a lot of engineering that goes into this, because there's a certain way. So I can show you when we open the door here. We should not open the door and have a ton of smoke billowing out of here. If you do that, poor fire management, and then your food just tastes nasty, right? Smoke, for me, should season the meat. It shouldn't overpower it. That's why on our briskets especially we use salt and pepper, because I want you to taste the meat. So when we open this up, you'll see there's not a lot of smoke coming out of there, right?
No, not at all.
And there's basically 3 types of smoke. There's black smoke, which you definitely don't want. That's creosote. The logs are smoldering, because they're wet, they're not seasoned properly, and that's horrible for the meat. White smoke, which when we smoke sausages, when we smoke our links, you want more smoke, but for these meats, we don't.
Okay.
And then blue smoke, which is what we see right now, which is basically just the fumes. If you look at the top of the flue, you shouldn't see any white smoke coming out of there. And so, as that pertains to great fire management, is only having to fire one log at a time. If you fire too many logs, you're going to kick up too much smoke all at once. Okay. Right? So these definitely are ready for a spray. We do apple juice and water equal parts, but everybody has their own thing.
How many briskets you approximately can cook at once?
Can we cook it once?
Yeah.
We can fit 32 on here, just on the bottom.
Wow.
And it also obviously depends on the size of the briskets. And then we have our smoked portobello mushrooms for the vegans.
I was just about to ask what that is.
We do smoked portobellos with chimichurri. But you can see when we fire them, the point is always to the fire, because that's the most protected, right? If you put the end of the flat to the fire, it's going to be dry and burnt and crusty for the amount of time that this needs to smoke for, right? And then the other thing is, you can see, and this is a great sign, see the color, the mahogany color on the side of that brisket?
Yep.
That is what we're looking for. So now it's just leaving it be. We don't want to leave the doors open too much or mess, I tell my guys, you fire the briskets, you don't touch them for a good 4 hours. Don't even touch them.
All right.
Just leave them be. And then we'll start spritzing, then we'll mop with tallow. Let's see what we got here. We got some ribs going for tonight. These are our spare ribs. Look like they're ready to actually wrap.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then should have a couple butts on for tomorrow. This time of the year it's a little slower, so we have a lot of options here. Not just with the barbecue, but the sandwiches and all the appetizers and special things that we do. So it's fun.
All right. First, we're gonna go over some fire before we have some.
Fire management is the most important part of barbecue. So for a pit this size, we'll start the morning. We fire about 8 o'clock in the morning. We get these going, and the briskets are usually off by midnight. We don't fire anything until the first logs are burnt down in a bed of coals, and the temp's up, and then we'll fire. And then it's just maintaining. So the biggest thing is starting with a lot of wood and building a big bed of coals before you start putting anything on there, because if not, you're fighting an uphill battle. By the time the wood burns down to when those coals turn to ash, it's then you end up having to fire too many logs at once as well, which is also, as I explained, not a good thing. And then it's also about the way the fire is constructed. So you want your logs spread apart as much as possible, railroad tie style.
Okay.
Good airflow.
So no meat goes on until you have it at temp, and that's already...
And a good bed of coals.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll fire about 8 or 10 logs to start this thing in the morning.
Wow.
And we just let it burn, like if we had a burn box, which I wish we did. And then it's just about maintaining that fire, scraping off the ash. You know, a big fire is not always an efficient fire, right? So if there's a lot of ash in your firebox, it diminishes the performance of the fire. And really, it's not so much the flames that are heating the smoker; it's the coals. It's like a coal engine,
Gotcha.
right? So,
all right, let's head back in.
cool. All right. So the other thing we do is, you know, for a place like this, you wouldn't do this at home. We number them as they come off, so we know what order we should slice them in.
Okay.
Right. The other thing I forgot to mention is, you know, smoking the meat is great, and then we'll wait till after the stall, like after 170 degrees on the briskets. Also, they got to have beautiful bark formation. Then we'll wrap, and then we'll finish cooking. When we wrap, we mop them with tallow in the bag again, a little spritz on the paper, and then they'll finish in the paper. You know, I'll tell my guys, for me, time and temp is a guide, but how does the product feel? You know, when I pick up a brisket and it folds over my hand like that, I know it's going to be a good brisket, you know?
So you won't wrap until the bark is set?
Yeah, the bark is set, and it has to break the stall.
Okay.
It has to get past 170 degrees, because otherwise you end up with a lot of juice in here. You can see this is all fat. This is just rendered fat, and that's what you want. But if I open this thing up and there's actual like liquid in here, then it was wrapped too soon and it becomes very tense. It's like cutting into a steak without resting it first. And then so all the juice comes out, you have a dry brisket.
So basically what I did my whole life.
Yeah.
Once the steak's ready, we just cut them.
Yeah, no, you always want to let it rest. So you can see beautiful bark formation on this. Nice and greasy. Greasy briskets are amazing. And then what we'll do is, so this is if you get burn ends in Texas, this is the Texas burn end right here. There. Let's try that.
Let's try this. Look at the juice. Wow.
And then right here, base of the mohawk, we'll split it. So that's our lean, that's our flat. You can see it's still really juicy. And then, you know, my company is called Jiggly Meat LLC for a reason. Perfectly cooked brisket. Sometimes there's that chunk of fat right here, we'll just take that off. I always start slicing, so the flat, we're always slicing against the grain, right? So the flat we're gonna slice this way, against the grain. The point, you have to turn it 90 degrees.
Okay.
Because the deckle meat on top goes the opposite direction. And the meat that's under here has been sitting on top of this pile of fat that's rendering all over it for 16 hours, 20 hours. Really, after resting, our process is about 24 hours. So we'll pull them, we rest them at 165 degrees for, well, until we need them. But it's at least 12 hours. All right.
I can't believe how good that burnt end was. That might be the best burnt end I ever had
Really?
in my life.
Yeah, and so this is we serve the Kansas City style burn ends, which are more, you know, saucy. So it's basically a cooked brisket, it's cubed up. You really only want to use the point because the flat's going to be too dry. And
I think I had those last time I was here.
and then we do a sauce. It's our spicy barbecue sauce, and we add bourbon, honey, and black pepper. And we want to have a lot of sticky stuff on there, but you can see the difference between the regions.
Unbelievable.
The thing is, if I serve this as a burn end here, People are like, I didn't order brisket, I ordered burnt ends.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, so we're ready. I'm
Yeah.
stalling for anticipation. I'm flushing in the fatty. All right.
See it. Oh my God.
Don't ever squeeze your brisket for a photo. I hate when people do that. It's like sacrilege. I'm like, you're squeezing all the fat, all the life out of it.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Here we go. We slice about a pencil width thick. And you can see the webbing is all here, all the collagen and fat. That's what we want.
That looks amazing.
You know, you can see the sheen on there. You know, and this is a good sign that this thing is perfectly cooked. Because if it just like falls apart around my finger, it's overcooked. So overcooked brisket is dry, right? Because you've basically cooked all this fat out of there. You're like, shut up and give me a piece.
This is.
I think I'm gonna join you.
It's the best brisket I ever had. Seriously.
I always tell Texans when they tell me that, I'm like, not bad for a white boy from Jersey, huh?
Oh man.
You know, it's just about new school barbecue is a much different approach than old school barbecue. You know, new school, I'm looking at it like from a chef's perspective, not from a tradition.
Yeah.
I'm using tradition for sure, traditional ideas and methods, but then I'm applying what I've learned as a chef. You know, where, you know, if we're talking about the difference between what's important, like a lot of people, smoke ring is very important to them. If I get a smoke ring, I get a smoke ring. I have a little bit here. For me, smoke ring is dry. I don't want dry
Really?
brisket. Oh yeah. It's also too much smoke. Too much smoke flavor. You know, I would prefer no smoke ring in the juiciest, sexiest brisket you've ever had in your life. Right? Because nobody's gonna be like, oh, I had a nice smoke ring, but it was dry.
Yeah.
You know? Or they're gonna say, it's just delicious. Who gives a shit about the smoke ring? You know what I mean? Oh.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know, and even the flat, you know, the lean, you can see it nice and shiny still. You know, like I said, I leave more fat than most when we're cooking, when we're trimming. Still juicy, right?
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna have to work a little harder on mine now after trying
That's
all
just
this.
practice, dude. You know, hopefully I gave you a little insight. There's little tricks that I've learned. You know, mopping with tallow, the whole, you know, propping them up and watching the pooling. It's the devil's in the details with everything you cook, but especially with brisket.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you having us here and you know giving us a look inside the
Most
best
definitely,
barbecue in Las Vegas.
Thank you.
I'll tell you that.
I appreciate that.
It's too bad we lost you out in New Jersey. We could have used the spot out there.
I might be
but-
back. You never know. Not for good, but
Yeah. I hear
see
you.
what happens. Awesome, dude.
All right. That's it. We'll catch you next time.